Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today we're unpacking something that touches pretty much all of our lives, yet we almost never stop to really think about it. We're talking about the psychology of giving and receiving. Specifically, we're going to dive deep into that surprisingly heavy, sometimes totally overwhelming emotional burden so many of us feel when we receive a gift, a favor, or honestly even just a tiny act of help. If you've ever felt this wave of guilt simply because someone was nice to you, well, you are in the exact right place. Let's get right into it. So tell me if this sounds familiar. Have you ever noticed your body actually physically stiffen when someone is kind to you? It sounds kind of wild, right? Obviously, you should just feel happy. But for a massive number of people out there, receiving a favor doesn't trigger joy at all. It triggers this immediate, heavy sense of anxiety. Your guard goes right up. Instead of feeling that warm glow, you just feel immense pressure. If that resonates with you, I want to validate that right here, right now. You are absolutely not alone in this, and no, you are definitely not broken for reacting this way. In those moments, there's usually a hidden internal monologue racing through our minds, something along the lines of, I have to pay them back immediately, or I literally have no value. This guilt, it doesn't just appear out of thin air. It stems from some pretty deep psychological conditioning. Well, actually scratch that. It's pretty much a direct result of childhood conditioning. From a very young age, we're implicitly taught that every single gift demands an equal and immediate return. We've been completely programmed to view kindness as a transactional debt. And if we can't balance that ledger right away, we just feel fundamentally unworthy.
Which brings us to our first major takeaway, the right to refuse.
Now this might sound a bit radical, but it is perfectly acceptable to decline a kind offer. Think about it. So often, we just accept favors we don't actually want, purely to avoid hurting the other person's feelings. But in doing that, we're trapping ourselves right back in that cycle of guilt. Honestly and politely refusing a favor is miles better for your mental health than forcing a painful fake smile. The right to accept or decline, that ultimately belongs to you, the receiver. And yeah, sure, the giver might look a little surprised or disappointed for a split second, but that temporary awkwardness passes so quickly. Declining a favor doesn't mean you're rejecting the person. It just means you are protecting your own heart and keeping things sincere.
Moving on to section 2. Okay, let's dive into this. The core pivot from paying back to paying it forward. In Japanese culture, there's a really interesting term called ongeishi, which roughly translates to paying back, basically returning a favor directly to the original giver. And while that's super polite, keeping kindness locked in this one-to-one exchange can often make relationships feel, well, incredibly suffocating. It's a closed loop of debt. But on the flip side, we have this other beautiful concept called onokuri, which means paying it forward. This is the act of passing the kindness he received not back to the giver, but to someone entirely different who needs it. This one simple shift completely relieves that immediate pressure on you, and it expands that kindness out into the wider community. But you might be wondering, okay, if I'm paying it forward, what on earth do I do about the original giver? The answer is actually beautifully simple. Sincere words of gratitude are almost always enough. A genuine, heartfelt thank you is really all that's required. By letting go of this intense obsession with returning a physical favor in equal measure, you free yourself from that rigid debt loop while still totally honoring the person who helped you in the first place. And that leads perfectly into section 3, the ripple effect of kindness. And this brilliantly illustrates how onokuri actually works in practice. Step 1, you receive a kindness. But instead of spinning around and handing it right back, you move to step 2. You pass a new, totally different kindness to someone else who's struggling. Then, step 3, they get inspired to pass it on to another person. It's exactly like dropping a single stone into a perfectly quiet pond. That one initial act of generosity creates these incredible ripples that reach so far beyond just the original 2 people. You are literally transforming your entire community just by shifting the direction of your gratitude.
Now, I do want to mention that when you first start doing this, giving without expecting a direct return, people might look at you a little funny. Society just isn't always used to selfless, unreturned acts of kindness. Someone you help might even feel that exact same discomfort you used to feel, or they might pull back a bit because they simply don't know how the heck to react. But just give it time. Eventually, that confusion turns into inspiration. They'll recognize how genuine your actions are, and that initial weirdness will blossom into deep respect. Your quiet little example will end up inspiring them to act the exact same way.
Let's look at section 4 now, time-delayed returns.
The thing about true gratitude is that the return of kindness cannot be rushed. It just can't be controlled. Today, you plant a seed of kindness by helping someone out.
Maybe 5 years from now, that person has used your support to grow and is now out there helping others. And maybe 20 years later, when you are genuinely in a crisis and feel totally stuck, unexpected support suddenly arrives at your doorstep, often from a completely unexpected direction. The universe has a way of repaying kindness on its own schedule. By letting go of the need for immediate transactional results, you are actually weaving this massive safety net for your own future.
There's a wonderful anecdote from our source material that captures this perfectly: the teacher and the student. Just imagine a teacher giving absolutely everything to a student. At the time, the kid probably doesn't fully grasp the value of that guidance, and they definitely can't pay back the teacher. But years later, they reunite. The student has grown up, lived this really full life, and finally gets the profound impact the teacher had. The true payback didn't happen in that classroom. It happened decades later, when the student used that guidance to live well and help others. Because true gratitude, it matures over time.
Which brings us to our final core concept in Section 5, accumulating small daily virtues.
But before we start listing off action items, we have to start right here. You need to accept your awkwardness. Seriously, if you are naturally bad at receiving compliments or gifts, do not force yourself to instantly become some Zen master at it. Beating yourself up over feeling awkward just adds this heavy layer of shame right on top of the guilt. Just acknowledging your discomfort, saying, hey, this is just a quirk of how I process things right now, is the very first vital step to finding real peace.
And once you've accepted where you're at, you can start silently accumulating virtue through super grounded, everyday actions. You don't need to put on a cape and be a superhero. It's just about giving up your seat on a crowded train. It's offering a genuinely kind word to a stressed-out coworker. It's providing minor, almost completely invisible assistance like holding an elevator door or picking up something a stranger dropped. When you do these things without expecting any immediate reward, you are quietly building up that amazing foundation of future support we just talked about.
And ultimately, that is how you build a foundation for truly rich, authentic relationships. By letting go of the crushing guilt of an immediate payback, accepting your own awkwardness, and simply choosing to pass kindness along at your own pace, you completely change your entire social dynamic. You stop viewing the people in your life as creditors, and you start viewing them as fellow travelers in this massive, interconnected network of goodwill.
I want to leave you with this final, absolutely beautiful thought directly inspired by our source material today. Unreturnable kindness doesn't disappear. It changes shape and passes to the next person. So the next time someone does something nice for you and you feel that familiar tight knot of anxiety in your stomach, remember that you are not holding a debt. You're holding a gift. So the only question left to ask yourself is, whose life will you change when you pass that gift along? Thank you so much for learning with me today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.